Hey guys, I'm about to head off to work. I just got lunch, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna take this little opportunity to kind of explain my future goals. Okay? My future goal is to build this muscle, right? But not even just that. It's just lose weight. And for the longest time, I kept telling myself, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. You know, today's the day. I'm gonna start." Only to fall short at the last minute and give in to gluttony. Well, no more. For today, will be my last Bacon King. It'll be my last time going to Burger King for lunch. In fact, I'm only going to limit to these fast food places, either for celebratory reasons or in the event I'm somehow out of food out of my fridge. One of those times, you know. So, starting today, I'm going to try to change my diet and kind of like start going to that first step to everything. And I think anytime I actually do go to these restaurants, I'm going to try a somewhat healthier alternative, like chicken. I know chicken, even though it's deep fried and everything, is considerably healthier. And, you know, there's lettuce and tomato on there too. And, yeah, that's just my plan. I'm trying to take things serious now. You know, I'm only 20 and I haven't really been taking care of myself as much as I probably should. And things need to start getting serious, you know. I have a gym membership for Planet Fitness, and I actually went there only once, but since then, as you saw in the video, it killed me because I am extremely out of shape. So, that's kind of my plan. Healthier food, and try to be more active, at least in the gym. And, yeah. If not that, I can at least say that I have been somewhat active at home, because I have dogs, 2 dogs, and one of them isn't exactly the brightest. He keeps digging holes, and he does not like anything with wheels. He gets triggered pretty easily. He's a border collie, and I keep having to move fences around, and these aren't just like your little like picket fences, you know, anything short. He's tore through about 2 of our dog cages that we've had. Right, they're pretty much scrap metal from it, like being triggered and using his strength. So, yeah, I've had to move fences around and stuff. I've had to do wheelbarrows to fill in the holes that him and his brother dig. And so, yeah, at least I put my muscles to use and have some maintenance on there. But, you know, try to be more active in my current goal. Usually on this drive, I usually listen to Distractable. I think this time, though, I'm going to do a little talk, because why not? I've already cleared storage on my phone. So, aside from working out and getting healthier and my whole game plan, another thing I want to talk about are TV shows and movies. Okay? Now, TV shows and movies, I'm sure you watch them, right? Just recently, that Superman movie came out. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it over Man of Steel. And I'm just gonna say it. When the directors actually try to pay attention to the material they're using, it makes a good film. I've taken cinematography class. I've taken international cinematography, even though I'm no longer in college. But when I was, those were the 2 ones I took, because I had a huge interest in. And were the only one besides math that I was actually passing with. And I'm just going to tell you, there are ways to make a movie, and then there's ways to make slop. And right now, a lot of these films are just slop, or do not capture my attention, like, at all, because I won't bring that whole DEI, you know, stuff in there. That's not my thing. Don't get me wrong, I notice it. That's not my only issue. My only issue is that when they create a movie, they try to change the source material. Like, for example, Man of Steel, Superman, you can say that's like the Injustice version of him, you know, and I've played the Injustice games, And yeah, that makes sense. In Justice Superman, he believes that he should be the one to create the rules and bring about justice as he sees fit. And that kind of really only triggers in his mind after the Joker kills Lois Lane. And then that's when the Justice League have a bit of a falling out and leads to a bit of a civil war with them. Right? So Injustice. He wants to become a tyrant, basically, and Wonder Woman supporting him and everything. And I mean, they seemed like that's the direction they were going, because there was also the Batman vs Superman movie that I didn't watch. And then, yeah, but then with this one, brings about the classic Superman and his original motto of, you know, being the symbol of hope and peace and justice. They really marked it on the material, too. Like, he only uses his laser vision whenever absolutely necessary, not just because, you know, he has it, wants to use it. He uses freezing breath not to, like, freeze enemies and, you know, punch the crap out of them. No, he uses it to, like, you know, blow people away and make sure they don't get hurt and stuff like that. And, yeah, like, James Gunn really paid attention. And I liked it. It was overall pretty enjoyable. I won't say it was like the best, but you know, I'm giving it like a 7 out of 10. It was a good one. But that's not even just that. It also affects shows too. A lot of TV shows nowadays, they just aren't the same. And you could say it's cultural difference and, you know, production reasons and all that. But I beg to differ. This truck gonna pass. So yeah, I beg to differ on that, because let's think about sitcoms, right? You know what a sitcom is? A situational comedy. We have shows like The Big Bang Theory, we have Seinfeld, and don't get me wrong, they're pretty funny. And they have a pretty big fan base. They've even had shows developed after them. They use some pretty recognizable people. But the thing is, they kind of fall off, or kind of get stale after a while, you know? Because like, with The Big Bang Theory, for example, it started off as irony, you know, like a friend of eggheads, essentially, despite them being smart and, you know, handling quantum physics, basically, and living in an apartment in LA, can barely keep up with rent. That's how it started off. It was just irony, you know, the everyday of nerds, you know, very smart nerds, gamer nerds. Comic book type of nerd, you know, like when they go to the comic book store and they see a limited edition Game of Thrones sword, they contemplate spending a stupid amount of money for something that's going to be hanging on their wall. There's an entire, like, 5-minute segment in one of the earlier episodes about that. It's crazy. But, my friends and family know me as kind of an old man, though, when I say this. Is like, I like older shows, I like older movies. I don't know what it is about them, but I think it has to do with presentation, okay? Because I want you to think about it. I'm going to bring a show. Let's think of Andy Griffith. I've been watching that lately, going falling asleep to it and everything. And the few times I have like stayed awake and actually fully watched an episode, it's always interesting to me that half the stuff they even say in the show, gone. Imagine what kind of outburst of storm that would be like to have in today's society. With anything they say, you can't even like present half these problems because, you know, people, they behave differently than they used to back in the day. It kind of goes hand in hand though, if you really think about it, because this show was quite literally meant for this generation. If you don't know what the Andy Griffith Show is, it's an old show. Back when they didn't really have color on TV, I think it was like the 40s, 50s or something. Around that era, from the 40s to the 60s, I don't remember specifically. But it's about the sheriff, his name's Andy, and he works as like the main, you know, peacekeeper within a town called Mayberry. It's a good show. But every episode is like very situational. You know, and I feel like that's the difference, is that it puts the situation in situational, and they put the comedy in comedy. Now, I have a really bad sense of humor, so whenever they accidentally lock themselves up in the jail cell through ironic situations, I'm gonna laugh my ass off on them. But moving on from that part, the situation in like the Big Bang Theory, you know, it starts off situational. It starts off kind of ironic, but then as it gets off, we're introduced to characters like Penny, for example, and all the other love interests for these characters, and we end up spending like 5 or 6 seasons. We end up spending like 5 or 6 seasons, you know, trying to get to know these people, and then eventually it becomes more focused on romance, essentially, drama, things like that. And don't get me wrong, I love myself a good rom-com, but that's not how the show used to be. And I dare say it was even kind of tainted because of that. But the Andy Griffith Show, it's actually able to incorporate romance, but still keep the situation comedy factor within it, right? Because like there is a love interest for Andy, and the part I'm at right now, I believe he's dating a school teacher, and his deputy is dating, I think it's her friend or whatever. But it doesn't make that entirely his purpose, and whenever they are included, you know, it's always like ruined by one of the town people, you know, saying, "Hey, y'all busy?" And then kind of just ruining the plans, you know. But it's not even that. It's that he is a good father. Okay, Andy in the show is a good father because he does have a son, and in that show, the son might do something, you know, completely irrational, might do something that's not entirely, you know, good in a way. Like there's an episode where there's an episode where the teacher, before they started dating, she was new in town, and none of the kids really initially liked her. But after he tells them about how important history is by telling them about the quote, the shot heard around the world, American Revolution, they became extremely interested in it, and they even formed their own little history club. It's not even, but another thing, same thing with the school teacher, is that she hands him one day a report card because it goes straight A's, right, and thinks it's under his name. And nothing wrong with that. In fact, even the child doesn't think much of it. Actually, a few bumps. Okay, right? And you know, Andy's proud of him. His aunt's proud of him and everything. And you know, he starts getting pie and gets praised by his dad, and you know, it's good. Until the teacher tells him she actually accidentally mixed up the report cards, and you know, he actually was not succeeding in all that. I feel like this is the one episode I actually extremely pay attention to. I can actually kind of go on and on about. To put it simply, he doesn't tell his dad. His dad eventually finds out, and he kind of feels guilty. The son feels guilty over everything, and actually tries to run away until he feels like, you know, he can amount to something to his dad. I feel like we don't have shows like that nowadays. That's what we need to do. So yeah, movies, they just need better source material. Not even that. They just need, what time is it? Okay, about 30 minutes. But yeah, we need shows with better source material. Honestly, just better acting too. And it's not even that. I'll talk about Ironheart next time. But this was my initial drive talk. So yeah, I'm gonna try and be more active, fix my diet, and I think shows and movies could be better. I definitely think they could be better. So this was my initial drive talk, and I will see you guys probably when I get off, or if not, probably on Wednesday when I go back to work. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Drink water.